Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Holy Fuck Moments podcast. I'm Christine Bano, your host. I am beyond excited for today's episode. I have the amazing Karen Dubi with me here today. And oh my gosh, this woman is magic. The first time I met her on a mastermind call, there was something about her, and I messaged her on Zoom and I was like, there's just something so magnetic about you. I just knew I was like soul sister, was like meant to connect with her. And of course, when I put it out to the mastermind, does anyone want to be on the podcast? Does anybody have any holy fuck moments? And she messaged me, and the message was so synchronistic. It was incredible. Her and I have some similarities and some things that have happened in our life that are in alignment. And so I'm so excited. Welcome to the show, Karen.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited too.
Yay. And so the way that we do it, you probably know by now, but on this podcast, we just go right into it. We go right into the magic, the power, the moment. So Karen, I'm going to ask you, what is your sacred, insane, wild, holy fuck moment?
So cool. I remember when I first reached out to you, I was like, I don't know what my holy fuck moment is. I feel like a lot of people have these like, whoa moments, but I think that my life has just been a constant, and I'm learning through human design that it's just been a lot of like trial and experience. And all of those experiences have had some like, fall to the ground, kind of burn and then learn, burn and learn, and burn and learn and then move on. And so although those holy fuck moments have been like on small scales, but they've been like incrementally like throughout my entire life. But this one holy fuck moment is when I was trying to get pregnant for a really long time. And that's actually not true. I wanted to get pregnant for a really long time. I wasn't trying. I never even tried. It just happened. I was told I could never have a baby. And that's because I had endometriosis and I had several laparoscopic surgeries, and the doctors were just like, you're never going to have a baby. Like, you're just so full of adhesions and whatnot and scar tissue. So I just thought that was the cards I was dealt, and I wasn't going to have a baby. And when I got pregnant, there's a whole story to that too. When I got pregnant, my husband really wanted a son. He was married before and he had a daughter, and he really wanted a son, but that wasn't going to happen. That marriage didn't provide him for a son. And he was like, oh, you know what? Now that you're pregnant, I feel like this has got to be a boy, because that's why this is happening. It's like the miracle. So I didn't want to know. It was my first pregnancy, but he wanted to know. So he found out and kept it a secret from me the entire pregnancy. He referred to the baby as Pat, because it was like, could go either way. And if I wanted to make my boy's room, because it was a boy, pink, he would have said, okay, do what you need to do, because he was not going to let me know, because I didn't want to know. So he kept it the whole time, but he, in his heart, felt like it was going to be a son. When our son was born, a few hours later, I didn't even realize it, but my sister-in-law is a neonatal nurse at a different hospital than where I gave birth. And she looked at him and she goes, I think he's starting to look like he's turning blue, like he's just not getting enough oxygen. So she called the nurse, and she didn't want to be disrespectful, like, hey, I'm a better neonatal nurse than you, and I see what you don't see. So she just said, could you just do me a favor and look at his vitals and whatever? And so they found out that he was cyanotic, which is like he was literally turning blue. And they took him to the neonatal ICU. And I think intuitively as a mom, they didn't suction him well enough when he was first born. You know how they use the suction and they take out like the phlegm. I feel like they didn't do that well enough. And my sister was in the delivery room and she thought the same. Nonetheless, they said he had pneumonia. He had fluid in his lungs and they treated him for pneumonia. So he was in the intensive care unit for I think it was a week. And in that week, after 2 days or something, I was discharged. And So I had to go to the hospital. I was like, I am not being with my son. So I was there from like dawn to dusk every day, and dusk to dawn, actually.
That's
I was
okay.
there morning, noon, and night.
All the time.
And I was beside myself, like, oh my God, that was my holy fuck moment. My son is in the ICU and this is awful. And it felt awful for me, until I realized there was women that being there every single day for that, short period of time, I was there literally all day. And I got to know some of the women whose babies were also in the NICU, and their babies were like born at 3 months old, like really, really premature babies that were so sick and so it was so tenuous. Their babies were not even able to eat, like they had to feed them through a tube, and their whole connection. And some of them had were in the incubator thing where they couldn't even have contact with their babies. And it was so sad, and so much of a holy fuck moment of, whoa, I thought I had problems. I thought my full, healthy, full weight baby, almost like an 8-pounder, robust, was a problem. And that was my holy fuck moment, was really understanding and having compassion and sensitivity and empathy and gratitude all at the same time, for the fact that like my baby was coming home with me within a couple of days. He was being treated reluctantly with antibiotics because I didn't want to put antibiotics in my newborn, but that was the protocol. And he was going to come home with me in a couple of days. And these moms that were there, my goodness, they were like babies battling for their lives. And that was my holy fuck moment.
Whenever it comes to anything with babies, there's something, you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, it's just so tender. And when you message, thank you for sharing that. And I have so many questions. And I just want to share as well to anyone listening that some of you who know me well know that my first daughter, Eva, she was in the NICU as well. So I went into labor at 33 and 6. So she came 6 weeks early, which was really scary, obviously, because
yeah,
you don't expect. I had just opened up a fitness studio and was opening my first business, and was just under chronic stress and like a horrific amount of sort of nervous system dysregulation and chaos. And anyways, my water broke at 33 and 6 and totally scared the crap out of me. And I remember just calling my midwife and saying like, so I think my water broke. And she's like, are you sure you didn't just pee yourself? I'm like, well, I don't generally pee myself in the middle of the night and in that level of quantity. And so I was like, does that mean I'm having this baby? And she's like,
oh my gosh,
yes, that means you're having this baby. And anyways, but
wow.
we were in the NICU for, like 3.5 weeks, I think it was. And just, I remember when you messaged me about your story, and I mean, there's so much more to as well that I want to discuss with you, but I remember just having this like, oh, any moms out there, anyone who's been through that, who has been in the NICU. I mean, it was the same sort of thing. Obviously I was very scared. Eva came out pretty long. She was very skinny. She came out around 5 pounds, which in hindsight, looking at some of the other, again, I obviously have lots of compassion for myself in that situation. And also just, again, like you were speaking to, seeing the other families and seeing some of these babies. I mean, there was babies who were like 2.5 pounds, 2 pounds, 3 pounds.
Totally.
And just like, you see these, like, I just remember my mind being blown and being like, I've never been so appreciative for modern day science, for my for paying for the tech, you know what I mean? Like it gave me a whole new perspective on, you don't know what you don't know until you're in that situation.
We don't realize like, oh, I want to lose 2 pounds, like 2 pounds is nothing for us as full adult human beings. But for a baby, like a 2-pound baby, 2.5-pound baby, it's like a little itty bitty. And then having an 8-pounder next to them, it felt like it just felt like I can't even describe how sad I felt for these parents that had to experience that.
Yeah, it's something I don't, yeah, it's really is truly. I remember a girl reached out to me and she had been through something similar. She'd given birth around the same time. And she said, she's like, there's something you don't kind of really know until you know, like you've been through that. And even again, like, but I'm sure for you, having your baby born, and I'm sure as well, because of your story, and I want to dive into that more, but being told you're not going to have a baby and then having a baby and then experiencing that sort of trauma, right? You think of the story that's painted, at least for me, it was like, so you're going to be pregnant. It'll be really easy and effortless to get pregnant. And then you'll just get pregnant and then you'll be really cute. And you'll get like maternity photos. And then the baby will, you'll just like have this magical experience and like have the song on, and then baby will come out and you'll just like perfectly know how to breastfeed. And then, it'll be all great. You'll get newborn photo. It's sort of like this like conditioned sort of image of what happens. And so
Yeah.
I find that when it deviates from that, and it looked obviously very different. And I had to work through a lot of grief in the last, over the years around, the fact I couldn't breastfeed. And Eva was a baby who was tube fed. She couldn't feed. I couldn't breastfeed her. There was a lot of shame around that. And, just that bonding and questioning of like, oh, she's around, not around, you know what I mean? That bonding and all that kind of stuff. There's so much of that.
Let me tell you the flip side of that one. He was full term, my son. And I wanted to make sure that I was producing milk so that I could feed him. And so I was pumping and I was feeding him when I was there for that, week, 10 days that he was in the NICU. And I was producing so much milk. I felt like a cow. Like I was producing so much milk. I can't even tell you how much was getting dumped. And
I'm so jealous.
the mothers that I met there were like, your milk is like, it's a golden elixir. It's just like heaven. And I was like, whoa, so from the flip side, you had guilt and shame on not being able to breastfeed. I almost had guilt and shame for producing so much.
Wow. So do you mean like, cause you noticed some of the other like moms struggling to produce milk or you couldn't,
Yeah.
and then here you are with this like abundance of milk. You're like,
I just felt like I had such an abundance and like they were struggling. And it was like, it was like a dichotomy of total differences.
Isn't it wild? I remember sitting there one time, that godforsaken pumping noise will forever be etched in my brain. But I remember sitting in the I remember sitting in the NICU, and at one point, I just remember looking down. It was like my baby was like, being in one of the covers. I was sitting there with this contraption that nobody prepared me for anything like this. First of all, like I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like the pump, I'm sitting there, I'm just, being pulled. I remember being on a phone call with an instructor at the time. And I was like having like, the classes weren't going well. And so I had to have this like conversation, and they were like getting super aggro at me. And I remember just sitting there being like, are you fucking for real right now? Like I'm getting yelled at. I'm sitting here like pumping, no milk. I'm getting like a quarter,
Oh my gosh.
like just like drips, trying to be like, please allow me like to, just looking over. I remember just being like, are you fucking like, holy fucking shitballs. This is not the way that it was meant to be. This is not the way it's meant to be, and I hear this from a lot of moms. I think there's a lot of that, right? It's sort of like what the expectation is. And sometimes when things don't go to plan, there can be a lot of grief around that, right? About the quote unquote normal way of having that. And
funny that you say that the sound of the pump is like etched. I haven't heard it probably for my son. Well, actually I breastfed my other daughter too. So she's turning 18. So let's say it's a long time. Okay. Sure. I haven't heard one, but if I was to walk in a room and hear the sound, I'd be like, who's pumping?
What's the noise? What's that coming from?
What's that noise? We went on a trip once, my husband and I, and we had a car service, and I left my pump in the car after like they dropped us off at home, and he was like, oh no. And I was like, you don't understand. I need my pump. It was, I think to date, it might be the greatest investment I've ever made in my entire life, because that was just like for a couple of $100, however much it was like, that took me through so much needed like work. It was just such a good investment.
Yeah, it is. It was a great, yeah, it was. I mean, I definitely didn't love it. I actually didn't use it at all with my second. So Eva, I couldn't breastfeed. Eva, obviously, again, I think it was a combination of stress, and she was also being fed there. And yeah, and I was also just in total overwhelm. But I had my second, so my second is she's 14 months now, and I was able to breastfeed her. She weaned herself about 4 months ago. She literally one day just like slapped me. I was like trying to breastfeed her, and she just like slapped me with like, she went off and had like eggs and bacon and toast. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm fucking done. But I don't think I produced that much. She's probably like, screw this, man. So, but so it was very healing in the fact of even being able to nurse. But I just think some of these topics, like, they're not discussed. Having a child in the NICU, and it doesn't matter your experience, doesn't matter whether you're in there for 4 days or for 2 days. I think it's more, just the fact of having that, a bit of a shock and a bit of that, like, and also stress. You're already in a very stressful situation, especially if it's a first child and you don't know what to expect. And then I hear this a lot with even moms who end up having cesarean sections, or, it's different. And it's also sometimes if there's anything around the baby or mom having complications, it's just something that can be very overwhelming.
It's not natural. I mean, I know it's natural, but it doesn't feel natural to have any kind of issues in the sequence of life, to have anything wrong with your children. And to, we're mothers, which we know is a very feminine energy to be a mother, but mothering and that nurturing and that taking care of and that like providing safety for is a very masculine energy. And we really, it's like, that's what gets us through the tough times, is like, we want to not just be a mother, but we want to be mothering, and that's providing all the safety for them. And when anything atypical happens, it's like, no, I'm a mom. Like, I have to put my mom gear on, and like, that's not okay.
Yeah. I so hear you. I have questions. So your journey early on, you mentioned that you were told that you wouldn't have children. I mean, what, like, I've I've heard from so many people, and I've heard this, there's women who've come in, I've been in programs, different things. They've said, like, I was told my doctor I'll never have kids, or, they're, and sometimes a lot of people, I'm sure, buy into that. They're sort of like, this is because it's an authority figure, it's a doctor, it's somebody saying this is it, and that's it. And then there's that belief that encounters, and then it's just like, there's almost, I don't want to say giving up, but it's just sort of like, okay, well, it's not going to happen for me. So I'm curious to know, when you were told that, was there that level of grief? Did you say, okay, I guess that's it? Or did you always know something inside of you that you're like, fuck this noise, I'm having a child?
I think I more thought about, fuck this noise, I'm going to have a child. But my journey wasn't exactly like very conventional in this regard too. I definitely had a maternal instinct when I was in a relationship before my husband. I was in a relationship, and I had thought about wanting children at that time, but I wasn't married yet. And so I wasn't at the point of having children. I just knew I wanted to have children. And then it started becoming more clear to me from the doctors that I was not going to be able to, but I wasn't even married or prepared or ready. So I didn't invest too much emotional time with that one.
Okay.
When I met my husband, then we knew like this was going to happen. This is my future partner. It was only about 6 to 10, like 8 or 9 months, I would say more specifically, that in that time frame from when I met him to the time that I ended up getting pregnant with my son, it was rather quickly, that I was like, oh my God. So I guess he had a daughter from a prior marriage who was my daughter. I felt like, okay, I'm going to have to surrender to the fact of not having a child biologically, but I am going to be a mother.
Yes.
And I think letting go of like, my sister tried to get pregnant for a long time, and she did all the in vitro and stuff. And I think the stress of wanting to and holding on to that can actually become a burden. I didn't have too much of the longevity of that emotional component to have held on to. It happened rather quickly. Like we met and then in January, and by October, I was pregnant with our son unplanned. So I never really bought into it fully that I wasn't going to have a baby. I just was like, okay, well, if I don't, I have a daughter.
Right. Or there's other options. It's sort of like there was something inside of you that's like, I don't know, the energy I'm hearing just as you were speaking there was like, I hear you saying what you're saying, like from the doctor, but I'm not like, it's not right. I'm not narrowed in on it where it's that become this like thing I'm fighting against or resisting, or
Right.
you're just sort of like, I'm going to be a mother, whether it's by adoption or by having, having a stepchild, whatever it is, like, or
Yeah.
there's other ways to have a child and to become a mother. There's just something inside of me that was kind of like, wasn't a lot of like resistance against it, whereas some people might hear that news and be absolutely devastated and have a piece, do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah. I never reached the point of complete devastation because it was kind of like I'm hearing the words like,
yes,
oh, you're never going to have a baby. Oh, your wife is never going to get pregnant. And it just like, it was almost like Charlie Brown, where that teacher would go, want,
yeah,
like it felt like, okay, you're saying something to me, but I'm not completely registering it the way that you're saying it, because I didn't think my life would be without children. I like that never occurred to me to go through my entire existence. And God bless the people that know they never want children, because if it's something that you don't want, you should know that you don't want it rather than have it and be like, this is not what I want.
yeah.
So I knew I needed to have children in my life. Like it just
Yeah.
would not feel complete to me. So I never bought into it.
Wow. So I'm curious to know, you said you had endometriosis, that's what you said, I think, and then you had other things going on. Do you mind sharing a little? Because I know a few people right now who have that, and I know like do you mind sharing a little bit about that story? Like, was that something you always had? Was that something that, what are a little bit about your journey with that?
It's kind of amazing to me that since the time that I first probably had my first menstruation cycle at 12, but like at the age of 16, I started having horrible, maybe even 15, horrible stomach aches all the time. And I went to gastroenterologists, nutritionists, everyone was trying to help me figure out like what's wrong. I did all these food tolerance diets to see what I was sensitive to or allergic to, and we went that route. And I did the barium enemas, like the upper and lower GI, like forever. And then we concluded that I just had some gynecological issue that was not identified yet. So I was on every single kind of pill and medication imaginable. And then one day my doctor said, I think that it's time to just do this exploratory surgery. And so we did that and found out that I had a lot of adhesions, which is what endometriosis is. And for anyone who's not familiar, it's really the lining of the uterus does not shed. Like when you have your period and all the blood is like coming out, that's the shedding of the lining of the uterus. That's what the menstruation is. And I wasn't having that per se. A lot of it was going retrograding upward. And when it does that, it like kind of gets lodged into different areas. So my whole entire organs and areas were like infested with adhesions. And so they clean it up in the surgery, but that doesn't stop them from reforming. And so the only way to stop them from reforming is to go on like different kinds of medications to stop your menstrual cycle. And so after I had 2 surgeries, we decided, so now I'm in my young 20s to stop my menstrual cycle, which was like putting me in pseudomenopause. So I'm a young 20-ish year old girl, like 23, 24, and I'm in pseudomenopause. I had all the symptoms of a 50-plus-year-old woman going through menopause. And at the time I was a registered dietitian, and I had a practice where I would have women come to me for weight issues, because menopause is, sometimes causes some women to have some stubborn weight gain and whatnot. So they would come to me and I'm this 20-plus-year-old girl, and they were like, you just wouldn't understand. I'm like, no, I do understand. I get it. Because my body has been deliberately shut down, and it feels even more unnatural and artificial at my age than a woman who's going through it chronologically to have an actual, perimenopause, menopausal years. So I understood it symptomatically, but I didn't understand it intellectually, like from this perspective of there is an aging factor for women. Like I'm at that age now. And so it's a little bit different, but I understood it to the best that I could then. And so that sucked. I was in so much pain. The pain that I had from the endometriosis on a daily basis is unexplainable. It's like PMS on Quaaludes. If it's just the worst pain. I actually had to take a hiatus from my internship because I couldn't function. I would keel over in pain. And my cycle was so abnormal that I would bleed for a month straight. I wouldn't get my period for who the hell knows when. So I never knew what the heck was going on, when it would come. It would just show up or not show up. And it was like profuse when it would show up.
Sweet Jesus. So what did you, I mean, what happened? Did you, yeah, like, what sounds like you were in pretty much a living hell. So did that just continue? Like, that just kept happening?
I'll tell you what happened. I finally said, fuck it. I'm done with every single medication. I'm done. And I just stopped taking everything and I stopped living my life according to being a victim of endometriosis. And I just said, I'm done trying to manipulate my body to kind of improve it or make it better. It wasn't working. Nothing was working. Nothing was feeling good. I mean, the medications had side effects and like disgusting side effects that I'm not going to get into, but like, ones that we just don't want as women. So it was just gross. And it wasn't helping me. It was making me emotionally messed up. So I made the decision that I'm just going to stop everything. And it's the second time in my life at that point that I made a decision like that traditional or conventional therapy and like protocols were not working for me. I also, in my younger years, had an eating disorder and I was in the hospital. And not only did the women in the hospital, the nurses in the hospital treat the eating disorder patients like we didn't belong there. Like they made us feel like there's sick people in this hospital and you are doing this psychosomatic self-induced problem and you're taking up hospital beds that really should be used for people that need medical care. And so they treated us like really, really awful. Wow. These young entitled girls who are just,
doing it for fun,
making problems out of nothing. But
wow.
But I did find that in the hospital, aside from the way that they treated us, I did find that there became this sort of competitiveness amongst the girls of who was the most messed up. Like she's the skinniest, she's the most messed up. She vomits the most, she's the most messed up. And it became a little bit of this like, whoa, I feel like I'm getting worse in this place that's supposed to be helping me. So I left there and decided I needed to take the reins and take back control of my physical health and wellness. And I just said, I'm done with this. And that's how I literally, it was a decision I made that I'm done with having this eating disorder and being enslaved to it. And that's exactly what happened with endometriosis. I said, I'm done with being a slave to all of the medications and all of the things and how it plagued my entire life. And I started to improve. I started to feel better and I started to function better. And once I did get pregnant, all of my symptoms of endometriosis subsided, which is I think common. You have a lesser chance to get pregnant if you have endometriosis, or at least that was back then. I don't know technology and whatnot now, but it was said if you have endometriosis and you've had the laparoscopic surgeries and whatnot, and you're like, I had one of the most severe cases of it. I was told by doctors in different states that I had surgery with that it's very difficult to get pregnant. But once I did get pregnant, my symptoms completely subsided.
Holy shit. Wow. This, just as you're speaking, the thing that kept like coming in was just like this, like the visual and the energy that I'm like reading is just like, it's such a journey of you of like self-love, of loving self, of like coming into contact with who you are and your power and your strength and that innate wisdom. And sometimes you do have to travel to the brink of insanity. It's like traveling to the edge, right into the edge, and finding your way back home to make you so clear about who you are and what you're here to do and how you're here to serve, and all these different pieces that I'm sure make you the most fabulous coach and mentor and leader as well, because you have gone to those peaks and valleys, and you've walked through the fire and come out.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're saying this, because I'm not very new to human design, but I'm definitely not an authority on human design. But the more that I have learned about it, the more I can understand how my profile lines are completely how and why I am who I am now. Like I'm a 6-3. And so my 3 line, and when you have a 6 line, you live as a 3 line until you're at least into your 30s. So all of my 30s, I was like practically like a double 3 line. And the whole thing about a 3 line is you're either this martyr, which that's what the 3 profile line is called, a martyr, because, it's like, this is the shitty kind of a hand of cards that I've been dealt. Or it's like the Phoenix rising, where you can look at it and say, I have been burned and learned all of my life, like I said before. And that's exactly how I am who I am. Is I've had a lot of experiences of feeling like the woe is me turned into like, well, look at the lessons learned, and now I can share, so I'm exactly what a 3 line is. I just didn't know it.
Oh, this is so good. I was just reading energy, but that's what I was picking up. And I have a 3. So I'm a 1-3 manifester. And I don't know a lot about, I do know manifesting and visionary, and yeah, I'm meant to like start things and then move on, all that kind of stuff. But I don't know a ton about the lines, but just as you were saying that, I so fucking relate. I mean, the first, oh my God, almost 30 years of my life, it was like living in the fog. Why me? Why is all this shit happening to me? Oh my God, this again. Why this? Just so many crazy fucking rock bottom, tire fire, dumpster fire moments where I'm like, I just remember one point, and I think it was 2018, when I had like a tree fall on me. I got pneumonia, shingles, adrenal fatigue. I couldn't drive. I was having panic attacks. And I remember just being like, I think I'm dead. I think this is it. I remember asking a friend, I was like, she was going to see a psychic that afternoon. I was like, can you just ask her if I'm going to die? Because I'm pretty sure I'm going to die. Like, I think this is it for me. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm so done. You know what I mean? I just had these moments, but now again, I'm sure like you, I can sit down with a client and they can tell me anything. They can be like, this happened. And I don't even play. I mean, I'm just this, do you know what I mean? The space and the level of container that you can hold when you've walked through some of those fires, and you can say, I hear you. You know what I mean? And everyone's unique and everyone has these unique experiences, but the wisdom and just the calm, like now I walk into situations, like even something this afternoon, I had some very challenging situations arise in businesses. And I was just like, yeah, we're just, I guess we'll figure it out. But like, it doesn't phase, it doesn't phase me the way it used to. There's just a sense of like, okay, well, we're going to walk through this because we walked through a million fucking things prior. So we're good.
Definitely. Not everything. Like I resonate so much with that, because I used to feel like, well, I mean, I haven't had, like, I didn't know what my holy fuck moment was, because I don't really think of it as like, whoa, these are things that happen on a continuum for me, like littler things. Even right before we got on the call, like my computer went black, and I had to like reboot, and was like, oh no, I'm on a podcast, but like, okay, I'm on my other computer now, and this is what it is. And you just make do with it. And like, you move on.
Off we go. Okay, we'll just do that. Yeah, I love that. I love that you're saying that. Sometimes it is. I've had people say like, I don't know what my exact holy fuck moment is. I know I've had a million of them, but it's just more like, which one do I choose? Do I choose that? Because I mean, even like we've been talking about today, this could be holy fuck, I, had an eating disorder. Holy fuck, I was in the hospital and we were competing. Holy fuck, I was told I couldn't get pregnant. I mean, there's all these different layers and levels in which we could
100%.
be like these different things. And that's why I love the podcast so much, is because we talk about one holy fuck moment, but then it actually just cracks open and talks about all these other things. So
Yeah.
what is there any other micro holy fuck moments that are popping in your awareness right now that are like, oh, I should maybe share that one? Or like, is there anything else that's kind of
I think the only one that's coming to me right this second, because it's sort of in the timeline sequence between the eating disorder holy fuck moment and my pregnancy holy fuck moment, is when I was pregnant, I also had a car accident. And so I was pregnant with my son, and my wedding was in 2 weeks. So I remember I was telling you that like it happened rather quickly. I met my husband in January, and I ended up getting pregnant like in October. So less than and then so now it's January again, a year after I met my husband. We're getting married in 2 weeks, and I have a car accident with my son. So I'm like 4.5 months pregnant, and I had this car accident where my car like turned over, and it was like bags exploded, and like I tried to get out of the car because it was smoking, and my knees buckled down because I busted my knee. It was a big mess. And so one of the holy fuck moments, if that wasn't a big enough holy fuck moment, was when I got to the hospital. The ambulance came, took me to the hospital. And I remember being in the hallway corridor, and my neck was in one of those braces, so I couldn't move my head. And this woman, I don't know who she was, I don't know what she looked like, but I was like crying and couldn't move because I was strapped down. And all I wanted to articulate to the EMTs was that I was pregnant, because they were like wanting to do x-rays and all that kind of stuff when I got to the hospital, and I was hyperventilating. So all I wanted to do was tell them. And when I got to the hospital, I couldn't calm myself down because I was freaking out. And she was like an angel. I've never talked to her after that. I don't know who she is, but she was like this angel spirit that, as a human, who calmed me down in the most awful, at that moment, awful moment of my life. I couldn't move. I was in so much pain. I didn't know what was broken. I didn't know anything of what was going on with me, other than I couldn't stand up, because when I got out of the car, because it was smoking, I fell to the ground. And that's how that's how they found me. So that was crazy. And that was a holy fuck moment for me. And then I had this guidance that was just like calm. And I felt it. I felt like a white light of calm when I was in the hospital, in the hallway, just waiting to be seen by the doctors.
Well, I have full body goosebumps. Whoa.
So I got
Wow.
married 2 weeks later.
With
I had a neck
with
brace.
a neck brace. I was just gonna say.
I had a neck brace. I had a full leg cast on, and I was walking with crutches. And so like my husband and I had taken dance lessons. We had the whole thing planned, like it was going to be beautiful. I couldn't do anything. And right before, I'm with my parents outside, like about to walk down the aisle. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, I just can't, walk down the aisle of my wedding with my neck brace on and my crutches. And so I took the neck brace off, and I said, I'm just going to walk without it. I just have to.
Yeah.
And because I could take it off, like when I was taking a shower and something, it comes on and off. I took it off, and my parents held me tight, and I limped down the aisle.
Karen, if that fucking doesn't say enough about you right there, I am officially obsessed with you. I mean, like, this visual of you, it is such a, like a testimony to you. Like, if you think about the energetics of that, you're like, no, I'm taking this thing off. I don't care if I'm limping down the fucking aisle. I'm getting married. My life is going to be good. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I just keep hearing that it tests your spirit around your spirit is not, I just keep hearing your spirit has no time for fuckery. It's just like, okay, you want to blow me up? You want to do this? You want that? Okay, cool. Like, I will limp down that motherfucking aisle if I need to. And I don't care. I don't fucking care. Like, that's what I just keep hearing is like, your spirit's just like, boom, here I am. Boom.
So then in the reception, since I couldn't dance, I stood in the middle of the dance floor, and everyone picked up like the outer bottom part of my dress and just circled and danced around me, like with my dress, almost like, those parachute things that kids play with. That's what my
Yes.
dress was.
Oh my God, this story. Oh, wow. 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 So tell me what you are now, just as we're kind of heading into the wrap up, tell me what is, you've obviously walked through the fire many times. You have not given up. You are like a beacon of strength and such a leader. What are you now doing in the world, and what are you loving, and how have you turned this sort of like pain into purpose and really moved into your calling?
I think it's still a growth and process. And as I change, as I grow, and as I evolve, some direction of my coaching seems to shift as well.
Yeah.
What I'm feeling really, really connected to at this point right now is working with women. And I was actually talking to an astrologer about it who said that this is my purpose. So it feels really very congruent and aligned right now. Working with women who have a love for luxury and a love for things. Like, I love things. I love my stuff, and I love having things. And I think the chasm between having and not having, or the idea of having and how to blend that with not being attached to just having. So it's really the material world.
Yes.
And kind of creating the congruency with the spiritual world. Because nothing that we accumulate is going to bring us to happiness if we don't have it inside. So it's like having, but feeling fulfilled. And so I feel like the women that I'm attracted to, or that are attracted to working with me, are the ones that are sort of feeling like they have everything to make them happy, but something's missing. Why aren't I feeling fulfilled? It's because there's the something that's missing. And I'm that guide to help kind of merge the two, so that you can understand you don't have to feel wrong to want to have, but that if there's something missing, there's just another element. And that's like the co-creation with the universe, and like really being able to have that connection of them. That's who I feel like connects with me the most.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. You're like bringing the juice into life. It's like, there's this and you can have this, and I'm going to bridge the spirituality, and but you also are in the 3D world. So here's all that. Let's like get you the physical manifestations of things as well. Oh, I love it.
I think it's like one of the like taglines on my website, and even like on my Instagram, you'd see is like, I teach the codes to have it all. But it seems a little cliche. Like, what does that mean to have it all? I mean,
Sure.
I mean to have it all. Like, you can have the ease and flow of feeling the joy of simple, like nothing, like just simply doing nothing, being like going nowhere, being home, being in your garden, sitting on the grass. Or you can have the have it all between like the vacations and the lavish and the experiences that are really pleasurable. And I like to be able to synthesize the fact that it's not one or the other. It's all. You can have it all.
Mic drop. I love that. That kind of blends into my last question for you, which is, I guess I keep hearing you kind of just did it, but if there's anything you want to add to that, if you had a message, if spirit could move through you right now, if you could share with the collective, the listeners, something that you would love to leave them with, something that you want them to know, something that you could leave your imprint here, what would you share with the audience?
Sky's not even the limit. There's so much possibility. And I think that something you and I have probably learned together in some of the mastermind classes is that people tend to live in a world of predictability, of what seems in our comfort zone, and then we stay there. And I actually have a book called The Art of Getting Out of Your Own Way. And it's because we're constantly in our own way of being able to know that there's more, there's possibility, there's potentiality, there's things beyond the realm of what we know, and moving outside of that comfort zone. And sometimes we can do it on our own. Of course we can do it on our own, but having a guide, a mentor, a coach to work with, it just helps you to see those blind spots a little bit more efficiently and effectively than you can on your own. And I I full-heartedly believe that coaching is something that helps just to collapse time so we can do the things and be the things and have the things and exist with that fulfillment sooner than later. We don't need to wait till later to have it. We can do it now.
Mm. So freaking good. And I so am on board with that. I truly believe that. Again, it's not that nobody can, of course people can do it alone. I did it alone for many years. It just was really tiring and I felt very alone. And this is why, again, I'm so passionate about bringing together spiritual entrepreneurs, heart-centered women and men. Actually, I mean, I work with men as well, but it's like bringing together people on a mission, leaders on a mission. We're just like, let's do this. And when you're in a collective like that, I know the amount of times I felt like a bag of shit. I'm like, who am I? What am I doing? And imposter syndrome kicks in, perfectionism, all these things. And when you have a supportive group, a mastermind, a group, a mentor, whatever it is, you can move through that so fast. It's just like lightning versus sitting in that energy for marinating in the sad Sally energy for weeks and months, right?
This who am I to has been coming up so much lately. I think that there's just a lot there to it. And when I was considering to write the book, that was the title for me, was who am I to? And it's an acronym for like stop the wait. Who am I to? Because we're all waiting till we think we're more ready. We're all waiting. I say we all, but I'm just talking societally. We tend to want to wait until it looks better. We'll feel better. We're more prepared. We're, more ready, but ready becomes this big fat lie, because if we keep waiting and waiting and waiting, we, number one, miss opportunities, but two, we're going to always think that we can be ready. I mean, as ready as I am for this, I could be more ready.
Yeah.
You just got to go.
And I look at how much I've distilled through action, and it really is. It's like that. It's of course the energy, but it's also just being like, you're gonna, you might suck at something, but that's it originally, when you first start something, but if you have a gift and you're hiding it, and you're not sharing it with the world. I mean, I always think about that. I'm like, Christine, this is not about you. This is about God moving through you. This is about energy, the divine working through you. Get out of the fucking way. I mean, I'm just the vessel.
Right.
I'm the deliverer of the message. And it's like somebody needs, even if 1 million people are doing it, it doesn't matter. It's like our voice, our experience, your unique lens, all the things you've been through, the car accident and the eating disorder, or me through, the things I've been through. Like, we all have our unique perspective and unique lens where somebody can hear our voice. I've listened to the same message literally from like so many different teachers, mentors, people like that. And it's like the one person, it's like I hear it. It's like I've heard it for 1,000 times, but the one way that somebody says it, it finally clicks. And there's like a level of just like integration.
Oh, of course.
Boom,
and
boom.
You may have heard it from that one person before, and you just weren't mentally ready to hear it the way that you heard it. All of a sudden it's like, I taught yoga for 25 years, and I can give the same cue so many times. And it's like, all of a sudden, like, oh, what you said today in class. I'm like, what do you mean? I've been saying that every day. So you're just not necessarily prepared to hear it all. And you can only filter in what you're ready to take in.
Yeah. Oh, boom, boom, boom. Karen, this has been amazing. I'm just like, I'm already like, okay, I feel like we need to do another spin off on like business energetics and codes and all these. I'm already kind of like, I can already feel the like, be fun to do some sort of chat about part two and codes and what that is, and spiritual less. I don't know. I just keep hearing there might be,
because business energetics in and of itself is a whole other conversation.
Yes.
But that too is another one of those like burn and learn from. Like I've tried so many things. I tried the conventional ways, the funnels, the this, the that, and I've learned so much through the concept of proof of what didn't work for myself, and that has become how I can work and coach in a business relationship with some of my clients as well.
Oh, I love that. We should totally do that. Do a little like micro mini podcast riff, the holy fuck moments of like some of the holy fuck moments along the way of business energetics and learning all that kind of stuff. That'd be so fun. So good. Well, thank you so much for coming today. I'm going to link all of Karen's info, follow her on social media and all her platforms. And I'll link all that below if you'd like to connect with her. She's an incredible woman and just has so much wisdom to share with the world. So thank you so much, Karen. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, listeners. And we will see you again soon.